Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Lender Chat, sponsored by KFP Investors, your favorite real estate and investment real estate mortgage brokerage. I am Kristen Fleming, and I'm going to start with our disclaimer. KFP Investors LLC does not give legal, tax, economic, or investment advice. KFP Investors LLC disclaims all liability for the action or inaction taken or not taken as a result of its communications from or to its employees, contractors, clients, prospective clients, or participants. Each person should consult their own counsel, accountant, and other advisors as to legal, tax, economic, investment, and related matters. So I am here with a dear, dear friend, Luke Naylor. We have done all kinds of business together over the years. And Luke, actually, you're a big part of the reason that KFP Investors even exists. You told me that I had to go into business because you still needed me.
I still do. We're coming back full circle too. So,
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a licensed real estate agent as of now. I guess let's go back. Born and raised in Nashville. Went to school at MTSU here locally. Lived in Murfreesboro for about 15 years. Moved back to the north side of Nashville in, 2016. Turned my first home that I bought in 2005 into a rental property when we moved out several years later, and just kind of had the bug after that, and started buying some rental properties at first with a friend, and kind of rolled that into flipping a house or two here and there, just all on the side. And then I guess 2018, decided we were doing it enough to get my real estate license so we could sell our own houses and, kind of keep that money. And that has just taken off from there, turned into full-time job. Left my job to do real estate full-time not long after, and haven't looked back. We primarily focus on the BRRRR method, so buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. It's our primary strategy. We like to buy fixer-uppers, fix them up, rent them out, pull the cash out, and repeat. And that has worked out, served us well. And then I serve clients as well for buying and selling residential real estate. We have a separate, company or arm that helps investor clients and does some property management as well.
So how many rentals do you and your company have to date?
So we have we have under our umbrella about 66 doors. And then the Middle Tennessee Property Group, which is our company, owns 21 of those doors, and then this are other investor owned that we assist.
Okay. All right. Very good. And so going back to the friend that you purchased real estate with back in the very beginning, how did you persuade said friend, or how did said friend persuade you that this was a good idea?
Well, I persuaded him. Wasn't super difficult, I don't think. We a guy I've known since childhood. His name's Chris. You've met him. Anyways, I had turned my original home into a rental property. It's funny because that was, I guess we bought that house in 2005, and it was 2008 or 2009. It was right after or right as the housing crash was beginning. At the time, didn't have any money. My wife, we just had a baby. I guess it was 2009. We just had a baby. She was staying at home, and we decided we need to go somewhere bigger. But anyways, I didn't think we had any possibility of affording a second home at that time and keeping it. So we tried to sell it, and housing crash what it was. We couldn't sell it, didn't have a single showing in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went to the bank and said, hey, what would you approve me for? I had never even asked or looked into it because I didn't think it was reasonable. And they threw a number at me that I thought was absurd, to be honest. But anyways, so we went and actually we listed our house for rent first. And I had called my mother. This is where it helps to have good family, and said, hey, if I rented my house out, could I stay with you till I find somewhere to live? And she said, sure, as mothers do. And I put it on Facebook and Craigslist. And the next weekend, I was moving into my mother's sunroom and living on an air mattress with my wife.
I'm so sure that your mother was really upset about having her brand new grandbaby coming to live with her for a while.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. So it didn't take long, and we moved and kept that house as a rental. But just in speaking to my buddy, he had kind of a similar situation where he had turned his primary residence when he first got married into a rental. We were both. My grandfather had a single rental property. My parents had one. It was always something that was just kind of, I guess, ingrained in me as a smart investment. And I had always thought from the very beginning when I bought that original house that my intention was to keep it as a rental, but at the time I didn't think I'd be able to.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, when that worked out, it was nice that the house didn't cash flow. We I think my note was like $1,000 a month, and we rented it for maybe $1,100. But till you pay any expenses, we didn't make any money. But it allowed us to hang on to the house for several years till the market recovered, and we were able to sell it. And didn't make much money, but in that meantime, and just kind of talking to him about life goals and investment opportunities, I really wanted to continue to accumulate rentals. But I was a police officer at the time. My wife was a bank teller. We didn't make a ton of money, and buying a duplex or with 25% down would have been a stretch. So I called him and said, hey man, what do you think about partnering up buying a duplex? And he said, sure. Pretty easy conversation. We worked out the logistics, drew up a partnership agreement. Partnerships aren't for everyone, and several folks advised us it was a bad idea because it can ruin friendships. We had several long conversations about all the what ifs and exit strategies, and drew all that up just really between me and him. Bought the first duplex. Less than a year later, we borrowed some money from his mother, and to finish out the down payment on a second duplex in Nashville.
Okay.
And then they both cash flowed great. We paid $135 for the first duplex. This is funny. Paid $135 for a duplex in Murfreesboro. Bought a duplex in Hermitage for $107. That was getting better rents on both sides already than the one in Murfreesboro. And I remember Chris distinctly saying, you think we made a mistake? You think we paid too much for that house in Murfreesboro? We sold that duplex about a month ago for $420.
Nice.
So we had that for about 8 years. And, just we didn't really do much in the way of renovations until about 3 years ago. We started renovating one side, and then the other one, the tenant moved out. And it was just time to do some things. So sold that one. But anyways, we bought that one in Hermitage, got her paid off, and then probably less than a year later, bought another one. So we had 3 rolling. I'm giving you the long version, I guess. Over time.
That's okay. We have time.
Yeah. So then, we rolled with those for a while, and his, I guess, brother-in-law had a rental property that was flooded in the 2010 floods here in Nashville, and he kind of like you in your she shed, he renovated the house completely by himself. They moved out of it. He took a long time to do it all his own, kind of learned all the trades. And then they had that as a rental for a long time. And it just kind of so happened, just through back and forth mutual conversation. He was going to sell that rental, and we had been talking about selling, one of the duplexes. And we thought, well, hey, what if we try and flip one? Like, he's got the know-how, we've got the money together. If we sell these two, let's see if we can flip one and see how that goes. That was probably, we bought the first duplex in 2014. And this was about 2017, I guess. We partnered up with Victor. Bought a little house in Nashville for 110, put about 60,000 in it. Me and Victor did almost all of that work ourselves. We probably did 75% of it. We spent 6 months of going to work full time every day. Both of us had full-time jobs, and every day leaving, driving to the house, working till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, going home, get up, rinse and repeat. We did that for 6 months, learned as much as we could about that process and what goes into it, and figuring out what things cost. Worked out really well. We sold that ended up selling it for about $250. We made about $60,000 on it, and I
Okay.
and I also remember, which was almost 30% return. And my realtor at the time, who was also an investor, and kind of my mentor, and on some level still is. He flipped several properties prior to that, and kind of gave us advice along the way. But when we sold it, I remember him telling me, "Now look, don't get used to that. That's not a normal return. So don't think you're going to go make $60,000 on every $125,000 house you buy."
Yeah.
And sure enough, he was right. But that got me the bug. He sold that house, and that was kind of when we decided we were going to buy some more. But at that point, prices were kind of really starting to take off around Nashville, and we were just getting priced out on if we wanted to grow and scale. You can only buy so many in Nashville at the prices they were at. So we went to Clarksville, which is a great market, and really hit some home runs up there. We bought 2 duplexes with the money we made. We bought that house with cash that we had pulled. We had no financing on at the time. We took the, $230 that we netted. We bought 2 duplexes side by side that we paid $175 for. And then we found a little single family house up there that we paid about $70,000 or $80,000 for. And renovated those and got them rented up, and that started the burger method, and kind of took off from there.
Very good.
And hadn't really looked back. So that's the story, the background, I guess.
Do you know how many flips you've done?
Like actual flips, we've probably done since 2018, 10 or 12. We do 2 or 3 a year. We don't do a ton of flips. That doesn't mean we don't ever sell them. If it suits the need to sell a property, then we will sell it and move on. And so we've traded properties back and forth, but we probably do 2 to 3 a year, just manual labor, because I'm old and fat and I can't do that. That was never what we did learn. We learned a lot on the first go round, and as some of the warnings about partnerships with friends go, we recognized some struggles and differences that we had, and kind of had to figure out where we each fit, and what our, I guess, best skills were, and how to use those. And he is by far the handyman, and can work with the contractors much better than I can, and I do a lot better with working the numbers and finding the deals and knowing what makes sense there. So we learned those roles, and now I think he prefers that I stay out of his way when he's fixing unless I'm there to provide manual labor and be his gopher.
Yeah.
So it works out. Yeah, we've probably done 10 or 12 flips, and then we've probably bought, I don't know, 30 some odd properties back and forth and sold, and over the last 5 years, I guess. So not a ton, but I mean, originally was to have, I don't know, 10 properties within 5 years. I'd have to pull that business plan back up. I keep saying I'm going to revise it. And we accomplished that pretty quick. We had done that within 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of that. We stayed in Clarksville for a while. We have gradually, the last year or two, tried to work our way back here. We'll go anywhere really in Middle Tennessee if the numbers make sense. We're kind of spread out now from Murfreesboro to Clarksville. But I live in the Nashville area, and so does he. We prefer to stay down this way if we can. Makes
Right.
things easier.
Yeah. Save a lot of travel time, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've got so many properties in Clarksville that we either own or manage now that I'm up there once or twice a week, anyways, at least. But I don't chase the deals up there as I used to. That's still where there's still some value up there, though. But that has since exploded too, so it's been good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, KFP Investors has quite a few files that we've done in Clarksville, and tons in the Knoxville area. Knoxville is one of the fastest growing cities for tenant occupied dwellings. So
I believe that. My nephew just started school up there, and that's the conversation that seems turns to the housing crisis for students up there every time. There's no off-campus housing they can find anywhere.
right.
You know, it's the reason I think is it was such a mess.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just around school. But
Speaking of such a mess, tell me about the weirdest or most challenging deal that you've done.
So we've bought some pretty gross properties, and we've had some tenants do some pretty weird, leave us some pretty weird presents.
I remember one in particular where there was some sort of plumbing issue and the sewage was just going straight into the crawl space, I think.
Yeah, we bought a property from a wholesaler, and I have a love-hate relationship with wholesalers. That's maybe a different topic for another day. But anyways, house nonstop, and there was a horrid sewer smell, and upon, I guess, inspection and just looking through the house, the crawl space was just flooded with water and sewage. The plumbing to the toilet had with 4 kids, so it was getting a lot of use, and the owner was an out-of-state owner, I guess, looking out, and we got them to reduce the price enough for us to have that fixed and pumped out and taken care of. Tenants were very thankful. Tenants are actually still there. It's funny how things change, and I'm a relationship person. I develop relationships with my tenants sometimes to a fault, and my partner harps on me for that sometimes, about being too nice to them or too lenient. But anyways, these folks had done absolutely nothing wrong, but the idea was to kind of fix that house up and raise the rents and do all that. And those folks are still there, and we've never raised the rent once. We've had that house.
That had to be 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh yeah, at least it's probably been 4. It was one of the first houses we bought.
Yeah.
So we've had that one a long time. But I firmly believe, as far as rentals go, if you've got a tenant that takes care of your property, treats it right, pays the rent on time, and doesn't tear things up, that raising the rent a month is just not worth. It's just not worth getting rid of them. I mean, good tenants are hard to find. It doesn't matter how good you screen them. You can do everything in the world you want to do, and you should screen them absolutely and set strict standards and follow them. It will save you a lot more headaches in the long run. But a bad tenant trashes your property, and it takes you, 2 months to get it cleaned out or renovate, rehab again, and find a new tenant. That's now 2 months of lost rent, which is at this point a couple $1,000 plus what you're spending. Or anything like that. So they have stayed, and I've got a couple like that. We bought a duplex in Goodlettsville, where we were told that both tenants were moving out, had been given notice, and we're going to be allowed, I don't know, a couple weeks after closing to vacate, which we had agreed to. We didn't, again, lesson learned, probably didn't discuss that thoroughly enough with the tenant beforehand. But once we closed on the property, one said they didn't want to move and were not planning to move and didn't know they had. One of them there. It's been also 3 or 4 years now. We have raised the rent on them a decent amount from what they were paying, but they were just absurdly low. But they still pay way under market rent. But similar situation, the house that was intended to be a burr property. It was a duplex, renovate both sides, raise the rents. We paid, I think, $125 or $135 for that property. They pay the rent on time and they don't cause any damage, and they're not problem tenants. So they both pay, their 2-bedroom, 1 bath. They pay $700 a month, which is crazy low. They were paying in the 4s when we bought it. But I mean, we would honestly probably spend $100,000 renovating both sides, maybe more now. And we paid $135, and the last time we refinanced it, I think it appraised around $300 anyways. So
nice.
Why spend the money? It is an investment game, and penny saved is a penny earned. So
that's right.
We'll roll with it for now.
That's right.
Right. But I think I think that's one of the keys is being flexible. I like properties where I feel like I have multiple, I guess, exit strategies. Does it make sense as a rental? What can I give the rent to so that it does make sense and cash flow at a reasonable rate? And what's it going to cost me to renovate it versus what can I rent it for? There's a time cost and an opportunity cost in spending that time versus, acquiring another property or putting your money to use somewhere else that might be more efficient long term. You got to keep in mind, the flips for us were always just kind of a means, and still are, to maybe add some quick additional capital. But the long term game is, for us, the agreement with our partnership has always been, this is a long term thing. We don't, as far as the business goes, we don't take a penny out of the company other than so we have it set up so that Victor is paid essentially a management fee for managing renovation projects. And, if I buy or sell one on behalf of the company, then I take a commission as the agent for the LLC. But aside from that, Vic still works. I still work now. We don't, he's kind of gone part-time because he does a lot with us. And ultimately for him will probably become full-time as well, but he does other outside projects and that kind of thing. So we try and put all the money back in because the idea is we want it to grow. Like we've got 21 doors at ours, and I'd like to, either get it to 100 and hand it off to somebody else and just sit back, collect a check. Which, the interesting thing about scale is as you start to scale, you realize how much faster you can grow and scale. Like from 1 to 5 was a big challenge. 5 to 10, not so many, and then really 10 to 20 was pretty easy. But now we've kind of got the process down. We had formed some great relationships, you being one of them at the time,
Thank you.
that were just instrumental in our ability to move quickly and refinance properties and pull money out and buy new ones and repeat. And I think our growth has outpaced what we expected,
Mhm.
and had planned for. And from here, it's funny because now I think we're at a point. Well, I know we're at a point where we're like, holy shit, we've actually got some real money now. Like this started from us all putting in, a few $1,000s, and I look at like what it is and the buying power that we have. I mean, we've bought
Yeah.
3 property. Well, we've bought 2 properties in the last month, and we've got one that'll close next month. And these are
Uh-huh.
all very nice single family homes. We've kind of, not really moved out of the duplex games. I have a deep seated love for small multifamily duplex, triplexes kind of properties. We've been buying some 15 to 2,000 square foot single family homes that are obviously a little more expensive, and in this market don't necessarily cash flow as well, but they
Uh-huh.
fit in the long term bigger picture of, hey, this is a long term gain. They're in areas. We evaluate each property individually as far as what area is it in, what's the opportunity for appreciation on this. So there's a saying, I guess, the appreciation is the icing on the cake. You don't really
Mhm.
buy for that, but it certainly makes sense to look at what's coming in the area. What's around? Does it seem? Uh, is the area as a whole increasing in value or decreasing? Are the neighborhoods getting better or worse? Or is this
Mhm.
some place where properties are being renovated, or is everything kind of status quo? Um, is there a lot of growth in the area, whether that's commercial or whatnot? Those are things that we're willing to take. Um, Maybe some spots where guys that go strictly on the numbers might not take them, I guess.
Well, I'll say one of the things that I really enjoy, excuse me, about working with you and your team is that you're a little bit of gamblers. Um, and, I have been to visit as the lender some of your properties that you purchased, and I went, "Uh, I can't believe I financed this property." But
Well, don't go inside. Uh,
yeah, yeah, but and don't smell it either. Um, but one of the things I really enjoy about working with you all too is I know that you number one, you're extremely intelligent, of course. But also I know your character and I know your ethics, and you're going to find a way to make sure that everybody who has put their neck on the line for the project um, is not going to regret working with you. And so that's very easy to say yes to you, because I know you're going to figure out a way to make it work, even if it looks, even if I don't necessarily catch the vision. Um, but the other part of that too is you've always been a really good client in that you tell me the truth. You're very responsive. If I ask you for documents or information, you get it to me like right away. Um, and you don't try to lead me down the primrose path. If something is a little wonky, you go ahead and tell me so that I can figure out some way to overcome that before I get blindsided with an issue. So to anyone listening who wants to know how to be a really good client, uh, to help your lender help you, those are some important details. Tell the truth, be responsive, and be easy to say yes to.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. I would, yeah, I mean, one, again, I go back to, I just think, I guess business in general, life in general uh, is about relationships, and you
Mhm.
get a lot more out of it that way. You will find people a lot more willing to help you. I know. So I certainly have come to you with maybe some unconventional requests or things that we would like to
Yes.
do that
Yes.
maybe shy away from, and you have always gone to bat to see what you can make happen. Kudos to and that is a benefit if for anybody listening to KFP investors who's always looking for new products, or outside of them, just small local banks that have some flexibility.
Mhm.
We learned pretty quickly on that dealing with big banks, you're just a number to them. There is no relationship. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter what you tell them. If you tell them the truth or don't tell them the truth, they don't care. It's numbers on the sheet. Um,
Well,
and
there's
and they're a lot of times not responsive, and those are the things that frustrate me, and I just prefer not to be that way. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, especially when you're dealing with lenders, they're combing through everything, so they're going to find out anyway. I mean, I'd
Mhm.
rather just have everything out there. um, and I try to approach it that way, even with my tenants, when it comes to a maintenance request or
Mhm.
how we're going to handle paying the rent or what happens when you don't pay the rent. And this
Mhm.
is how it's going to go. And I told somebody yesterday, I said, look, I don't say any of this to be mean, but this is how it is. Um, you know, so. Uh, but yeah, I mean, as far as and if you find a lender that you like, or somebody that works well with you, whether it's a lender or a painter or a contractor or whatever, then you should bend over backwards to do everything, to work well with them and do everything that they ask and make things easy, because it's only going to come back to you tenfold. I mean,
Mhm.
one of the hardest things about this business, honestly, is having those go-to people and
Mhm.
keeping them around. Like even with us, um, uh, partly because we're so spread out. If we had that many properties in one unit in one immediate area, it might be a little easier. But is keeping a good plumber, or like
Mhm.
it's hard to keep somebody full time as a maintenance person, because it's just Murfreesboro, Clarksville's a long way to go. But and then they got to do everything. So we rely on a particular plumber in Clarksville or in the Goodlettsville area, or wherever that may be, and
Mhm.
you know I, when they send the bill, it's paid that day or the next day.
Yep.
If they call, I answer the phone. I got to take this call. Um, now same, and we go out of the way. So we have a painter that we use now that, um, even while we don't have anything going on, Victor is out there. If he's out referring his painter out, his painter, the painter we use, like we're going to throw them
Mhm.
all the business we can. If you find somebody that does a good job at a reasonable price, or honestly, even now at an overprice, if they show up on time and they do what they say they're going to do, and the work is good, pay them what they ask and move on. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
to me, I'm not going to fight with you over, a couple $100 trying to have you down. Victor will do that, but
Yeah.
that's like I just, and the same thing with lenders. Like, obviously, we're going to be an open book to you anyways. You're looking at all our financials. You can pull up my bank account and see when the last time I went to the casino is, or whatever the case. Um, but yeah, I mean, we like to find. Uh, I like to think outside the box. Like anybody can slap numbers on a piece of paper, and does it hit my 8% return a year? Yay or nay? Okay, on to the next one. And
Mhm.
I have a couple investor clients that I work with to find rental properties that are that way. And
Mhm.
why are you sending me this property? It doesn't hit my numbers. I said, dude, yeah, your numbers don't exist anymore. First of all. Um,
Because
um,
I'm hoping you'll be
yeah,
sensible.
yeah. I mean, in fact, I told him the other day. He sent me an email back earlier this year when he did his finances that, hey, this property hit, I don't know, 12% return this year or something, whatever the number was. Um, And I said, yeah. I said, as when you renovate the units and raise the rents, that's what happens. So next time I send you one, you're like, well, this doesn't quite hit my numbers, and you know that. Well, might not today, but it needs work. You got to see the vision. In 2 years, when every unit is renovated and all the rents have gone up several $100s, guess where you'll be. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a long term game. But we bought these three. I don't know if this is one of the ones you're referring to as far as drive by, but we bought these three houses side by side, um, and they're pretty rough looking on the outside. But we didn't buy them. The vision for those, honestly, was that ultimately we will tear all three of them down and put a bunch of townhouses there. It's
Are
on a
these the
little.
3 in Madison that you're talking about?
They're in Goodlettsville.
Okay.
It's technically a
It's not what I
Goodlettsville.
had in mind, but I do remember those
We,
now.
we
Yeah.
we did we bought one. Speaking of challenges when COVID hit, so we bought one. We bought these two houses. They weren't side by side, but they were both complete dumps. And here's the thing about relationships too, to kind of go back because I spaz and jump around. We had the house with the house that where the toilet was draining into the crawl space. So the guy across the street, we were just over there working. We like to go meet the neighbors, say, hey, if you have any problems, here's our number. If we can help with
Smart.
anything, let us know. And that has turned into several really good deals. And in fact, one of our best ones, we bought. This gentleman has had, I don't know, 7 or 8 rental properties. And he had 2 that were kind of problem properties that had been empty and needed a ton of work. And he didn't want to spend the money and didn't want to do anything with them. So he, so make me an offer. And we did. We bought 2 houses in Madison for $145,000 or $150,000. We turned around immediately, just cleaned one of them out and sold it for 105.
Nice.
Yeah, so we had 40 grand in the other house, $45,000, and it honestly the plan was to tear that one down and do the same thing, either townhouses or try and build a couple duplexes. We had met with an architect. We talked to the city councilwoman about getting it rezoned, and things seemed to be kind of moving in the right direction. And then all the COVID stuff hit, and really started. And in hindsight, we probably could have still moved forward, but we had our own little panic button. Hey, we don't really know where things are going to go. Maybe let's not get into some $1 million project of building several houses on this lot that's going to take a long time, and we don't know what's going to happen. We ended up putting that we got a guy that we use to do some demo and different odd and end type stuff. And the house he was renting was being sold or something to that effect. So we moved him in there dirt cheap. I'm sure if you drove by that one, it was one that you were like, oh my goodness. But he's done everything over there. We gave him, he can fix it up, make it as nice as he wants. And the deal with that one was we'll let you have it. I mean, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that we could have fixed up and rented for $1,500 or $1,600 a month. Then we put him in there for $900 a month and said, you got to do all your own repairs. He put all new flooring in it, painted the whole house, put new gutters up, fix some siding, fix the roof, fix the AC, fix some plumbing issues. And we had $45,000 in that house. It appraised for $260 the last time we did a refi on it.
Wow.
So, that obviously well worth it. We're doing, probably a topic for maybe off air with you in a minute, but so that one is coming up. So we operate on credit lines, or we kind of use them as a vehicle to be able to make cash offers, to use the cash flow of the rental properties.
Yeah, other people's money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like that. So we have 4 properties on one credit line, and we have 4 or 5 properties on another credit line. So we've got 2 pretty healthy size credit lines. Well, they, with commercial credit lines, most of the time you're only getting a year. You were able to help us get 2-year terms. So they renew every 2 years. Good thing about that is, you can get that increased value in the last several years. Obviously, that's been really, really helpful. Bad side of that is it's an adjustable interest rate, which is now up to about 9%. So on the credit line.
I'm gonna guess
Not
today it's 9.25.
Yeah, I just got a little thing in the mail the other day, that it was going up.
Mhm,
I believe that's right.
mhm.
So, so that now that one's coming up, it's going to be time to maybe explore some other options. I know interest rates aren't a whole lot better just on a fixed term side, but they're better, and they might not go to 12. So I might go ahead.
Right now, we're beating bank interest rates by almost 2 points.
I saw that. I'm aware. Like I
Mm,
said, we're going to chat here shortly.
mm.
um,
Well, um, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
no,
Eh,
so I mean, but that's a bit, the benefit there obviously is, allows us to be a cash offer. We're not paying
yeah.
interest on the money when we're not using it. If we don't have a property for sale, doesn't force our hand. That I'm not sitting on just a bunch of cash and paying interest on a mortgage and I'm not using the cash. I mean, the only time we're ever going to use that for now is to buy additional properties. So
Mhm,
that's what we refied three or
mhm.
four. Well, we closed those out in February, so that's when we went on this, I guess, most recent buying spree. We bought one. Well, we've bought two, and we've got one under contract that'll close in May, and that'll use up that money. It was about 900K. We paid 257 for one. We paid 250 for one here a couple weeks ago, and this one we close in May, we'll pay 310 for. So we'll use 700 of that. Um, Hopefully get most of that. So I think this last one in May is actually probably going to be a flip, um, just
Okay.
because of what we're getting it at. We're getting it at 310, but it's a really nice property in a nice neighborhood, and we're probably going to try and fix it up a little bit and sell it.
Mhm,
But again, it's got multiple exit strategies. We could keep it and rent it. We've already got somebody on the hook, I guess, that wants to buy it as is, as soon as we close. So we may just turn around and sell it to him,
okay.
and move on and make a quick 50 or sixty
Mhm.
thousand dollars and be done with it.
I bought
Um,
that one. I bought one that way 3 houses ago. Was somebody bought it as a flip, and I came along pre-work and said, "Can I buy it as is?" And I think he made about 25 grand just from holding it for a couple of months.
yeah,
And I was happy to pay it to him because it was still a great deal for me.
right. And it is, and this one's coming from a wholesaler. So again, back to that
Mhm.
love hate relationship. I've hated them for this whole process. Um, and but there's some value that they add there, the good ones anyways.
Well, I'd actually love to explore that just a little bit. Can you give us maybe a couple of bullet points about the love side and a couple of bullet points about the hate side?
Sure. So I mean, the love side, look, they provide value without a doubt. They put the legwork in. They go out and find, um, and are at times able to get them at a deep enough discount where they can make some money on their assignment fee, and we can still get it at a price where we can make money. And they've done the legwork of finding the deals. Obviously, I mean, even as an agent, I've got access to the MLS and anything else that other people have. Um, but truth be told, your best deals, by and large, are going to be off market properties where you're not necessarily fighting everybody over it.
Mhm,
You're not paying retail price, even if it's an investor retail price. Uh,
mhm,
those folks want top dollar, and I don't blame them. There's no knock on that,
mhm,
at all. But obviously, from the investor side, we've got to be able to make money, or it just doesn't make sense. And so there's
mhm,
no harm if we can't make that work, even when if we're talking to the neighbor at a property we're renovating. Um, again, going back to the relationship, I think one of the reasons people like working with us and selling to us, um, is because we're completely honest and transparent about what it is we're doing. Here's the price we're willing to pay, and here's why. Like, we're not, um, we're not trying to take advantage of you, but if we can't make money, it doesn't make sense for us to do the deal. And I have, as a licensed agent, this has come up at times when I've had somebody wanting to sell a property that maybe needed some work,
Hmm.
and I will present them, hey, just so you know, I can make you an offer. Here's a cash offer as is. This is what I would pay you, or this is what I think we can sell it for. Here's all of the fees and commissions that would come out. Here are the things you might need to do to get it ready to sell. Um, and here's what you would potentially make. Here's a potential time frame and that kind of thing, and then let you make the decision. And obviously, yeah, most of the time, my cash offer is going to be less than what you could potentially make. But for some
Hmm.
people, there is a legitimate, I don't want to deal with fixing anything up or making my house show ready. The difference in however many thousands of dollars maybe doesn't affect my life that much that I care. I would just rather sell it and be done with it. A lot of times
Hmm.
that could be, an estate type issue or whatever it is. I'm tired of the rental game and I just want to get out of it and exit these rentals. Or whatever. So,
Hmm.
from that standpoint, wholesalers come in where they're finding those types of deals. That's a lot of what they are. Um, but so they add value there. And there are some very good ones out there that are honest and transparent with their sellers that, hey, I'm a wholesaler. This is the offer I can make you. I've got to make my spread or whatever, but I've got access to these cash themselves.
Luke,
Um,
I'm so sorry we lost you for just a minute, and so I paused the recording. The last thing I heard you saying was wholesalers can say, "But I've got these cash buyers. I've
Right.
got
So
access."
so so their game, obviously if they're being transparent, they do have the good ones have a whole list of buyers that are willing to snatch up their
Hmm.
deals. Um,
Hmm.
and then you've got the ones that just say, hey, they're just trying to get a property under contract at any price and then see if something sticks. The problem with that is, and see if they can find a buyer. The problem with that is
Hmm.
find a price. They've tied up this seller's property for 2 weeks, a month, maybe longer. Um, for nothing because they never had any intention of buying the property anyways or any ability to buy the property, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of times what you run into. And then these sellers are left hung out to dry a month later thinking they were going to have their property sold. They really know
Hmm.
what they're doing, or maybe one that's just dishonest, may just be an inexperienced guy, or
Hmm.
girl, I guess. But I have shown up to these walkthroughs with wholesalers. Okay, here's you can come walk through the property, and they just tell you right outside in the front yard, hey, if you ask, you're my contractor. You're just here to give me a price on repairs, and I don't play that game, and I just shut that down right away. Look, I'm not doing that. You don't want me to go look, that's fine. But if they ask me and I get in a conversation with them, I'm just going to be honest with them. What that does to you, I'm sorry. You're
Yeah.
not gonna stick me in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And because it's beneficial to me to talk to the people that are there anyways. They can tell me what's going
Right.
on with the house
Right.
and,
Right.
that kind of thing. So
You
if it
sell a
goes
nice
a
place like
three-way
this.
conversation, yeah, sure. And if they ask me, what I'm there for, I'm say, well, we might buy it. Oh, who's that guy? Well, he's a wholesaler. He's not, you know. But there are wholesalers and that will actually buy them. Tennessee Home Buyers is an example. They wholesale a lot of properties, but they actually do buy and close and renovate and flip their own houses and do some of
Hmm.
that stuff. So, I don't have a ton of experience with them. I'm working with them on a deal right now, and they've been
Hmm.
okay. We had some minor disagreements initially, but we've worked that all out, and everything seems to be on the up and up. And my, what I've heard from about them has all been good and legit, and everything seems like it should. But I've also seen, and this is where doing your due diligence, and we've made this mistake of trusting people on these one-page flimsy wholesale contracts, um, and you might be walking into who knows what when you get in the house because
Uh-huh.
they don't know and they don't care, and they've collected their assignment fee and they're gone. So But again, you're going to find deals with those guys, but you got to wade through a lot of BS a lot of times. For every probably 100 plus emails of a house I get, there's maybe one in there that's so I don't know. That's the love and the hate, I guess. If
Gotcha.
that both sides.
Well, speaking of, you mentioned, you got to wade through and you've got to find and you've got to do your due diligence. If you could give your younger self three pieces of advice, hopefully real estate related, but it's not required. What would those be?
So I was looking through I was looking at your email to see what I need to make sure. I asked my wife, she said, eat the dessert, drink the beer, and be outside more.
Okay, so that's Mandy's advice. What's
Yeah,
Luke's
that's Mandy.
advice?
Obviously, none of those are real estate related. But now I guess you could take the be outside more. Hey, go look at the house. Don't buy it sight unseen. We've done that. We got lucky; it worked out. Not recommended. Start younger. Don't be afraid to jump in and get your feet wet. I know. I told you, my granddad had a rental property. My parents had one, and I remember from an early age, my grandfather never shied away from talking to us about just investments in general, about what he was investing in or how he was saving his money. He was a big saver. They had the one rental property. He was no tycoon by any means. Liked talking about that and sharing that knowledge. And that's one of the things that I enjoy. Anytime somebody starts asking me about real estate and what we're doing, as you see, I can go on for hours. Because I just
we'll have you on again.
I just enjoy talking about it, and I truly believe that real estate is probably the best vehicle for just wealth generation overall, and what you can accomplish with it. And I don't know if this sounds arrogant or not, but I'm proof. I took the leap and went full time, and I was so nervous about quitting my job and doing it. And my dad was like, look, man, sooner or later, you just got to jump off and see what happens. And I was like, you know what, man, I guess I can go get another job.
I remember, I think you talked about it for like 2 years before you actually.
Yeah, I did. And the crazy thing is, so when I finally kind of woke up one morning, I was like, all right, this is it. We're going to do it. The decision's made. I'm gonna set a date. We're gonna turn in the notice. And then my wife's like, hey, what would you think if I quit my job and went full time as a freelancer? She does event logistics, and I was like, well. And we had obviously been talking about me leaving my job, and I was like, I don't know about us both quitting at the same time, but we did. And it worked out. We've never looked back. So bet on yourself. If you're passionate about something, so first, start early. 2, don't be afraid to take a chance, especially when you're younger, because you got so much time to recover if things don't go well, right? Maybe not, but either way, honestly, having the responsibility of then having 2 kids and a bigger house note and all of that probably fueled me to work even harder, because now I can't fail, right? So, and get out there and talk to people. If that's 3, don't rely on folks that know more than you. Get in the forums or go talk to people. And you got to put yourself out there a little bit. Go knock on doors. If you can get into that first property, go meet all the neighbors. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Obviously, I guess if you're newer, always, approach things with maybe a little bit of caution. We are kind of gamblers, but it's funny. I think I would definitely fit myself in that category. I'm willing to take some risk, but with the partnership, I think I take a pretty conservative in any of my estimates. Whether that's a rehab estimate, I always overdo it. Vic tells me every time he can do it for 50,000, and so I budget 75. Like that's and a lot of times it comes in good or somewhere in the middle, whatever, So we work it out that way. It's going to take 60 days. All right, I'm planning for 90.
Uh-huh.
Just there things come up, but you know, don't put yourself in a corner. Don't start with your margin so slim that there's no room for error.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, but
But start.
but start. That's exactly right. But
Mhm.
start. As soon as you can, whatever that is. Even if you know the wholesaler is the fly by night, quick, easy way to get in with no money down. I'm not saying that's wrong. That's a tough business if those houses had renters in them. All of them wanted to stay. Um, they all take care of the house and they pay the rent on time. They may not be the most beautiful outside, um, but they're nice inside. The properties are taken care of. If there's a problem with them, we fix them. Um,
Yeah.
and so don't be afraid to invest some money in your rental properties.
Yeah.
A house cash flow is a couple $100 a month. That's great, but again, long term, that couple $100 a month isn't gonna change your life. But
Right.
10 years from now, when that $100,000 house is worth 420, now we're talking about something. You didn't get that
Mhm.
$200 a month over 10 years, so um,
Mhm.
and just that kind of thing. Obviously, we've been very fortunate with timing, with how the market has exploded over the last couple of years, has obviously made that. Uh, I don't know, a little easier. Maybe we've been lucky, but um, don't. I'm very passionate about it. I know especially when I first got into it, eat, sleep, breathe it. I was up on my computer in my bedroom till 10 o'clock at night, searching properties, running numbers on every email that came through, those 100 deals that I was talking about that they're emailing. I looked at every single one of them until I
Uh-huh.
realized who knows what they're doing. And then you just acquire over time. All right, I know the Goodlettsville market pretty good. I know the Clarksville market pretty good.
Right.
You can send me an email that says it's a 3-2, $1,500 square foot house. And I got an idea without looking at anything, a pretty good idea of what it's going to go for.
Mhm.
Um, and so I can look at your first price number and know whether I need to dig any further or
Mhm.
not. Or I can look real quickly now at pictures, having done this several times and knowing a little bit better what things cost. Um, I can pretty quickly dismiss if their rehab numbers are way out of whack and
Right.
just and go from there. Other thing
Right.
I'd say is be open to criticism and be open to questions, and don't think that just because somebody's asking you a hard question that you might not know the answer to, that they're attacking you or judging you. Like, be open minded about it, and
Well, I
why
mean,
you
a
see
few
it.
times I was attacking you and judging you when I would say, "You wanna do what now? That's
Uh,
not real. That's not
yeah.
real, Luke. That's not a thing."
Hey,
And
listen,
then you made me go research it, and it was real. And
and we put that plan in motion too.
we did. You
Uh,
you definitely talked me into some very interesting things. But, I wanna go back to something that you alluded to a little bit a few minutes ago when you were talking about the partnership. And, we are gamblers, but when it came to the partnership, so one thing I have realized that I have quite a few deals that I have partners with on those deals. And I am much less of a gambler with other people's money than I
right,
am with my own.
sure. And I'm the same way. Like, I am way more uh, afraid of having to answer to them about how I screwed something up than I am, how am I going to sleep at night knowing I lost my own money? Like,
Right, right. I don't
I'll
have
lose
to
it.
like that, but I
Yeah.
don't I don't have to uh, you know, I don't.
So, and so for me, I sleep easy night because I even get those questions from the partners. They're like, how does this make sense? Like, what are you doing?
I'm not surprised with some of your ideas.
And and it doesn't bother me. I'll say, well, hey, well, this is why, this is what I think.
Uh-huh.
Um, and generally they get on board, but I don't have to, I guess, throw this in there to them anymore. I think we certainly have a good trusting relationship. But look, the last thing I'm going to do is mess with y'all's money
Yeah.
in a way that's going to mess it up, or at least not
Yeah.
intentionally, obviously. There certainly could be a deal that goes bad, and again, we
And
bought a
they do.
property.
They go bad from
Yeah,
time to time.
we bought one that I probably should have dug into a little deeper and asked a few more questions, and it ended up getting us into a lawsuit over some title issues, and it's cost us a chunk of money, but we'll still come out okay. Um, we did come out on the winning end, and we'll get the rest of our money back. But um, but at the end of the day, there was such a good spread on that deal. It was going to be tough to go wrong. So,
Mhm.
to me, I would say the risk was worth it. Not that I really recognized the risk at the time. I guess lesson
Right.
learned. Um, so maybe we were lucky, and it could have probably been worse. But um, you know, uh, yeah, I'm just not gonna. I'm not gonna take that risk with anybody else's money,
Right.
and in the grand scheme of things, my own money, if it's meaningful amount, which when you're talking about buying houses, it is. Like I've
Yeah.
got a wife and two kids, and and bills to pay. So I
Right.
like we were talking about swimming pools. I like my swimming pool. I don't want to go back to sleeping on an air mattress in my mother's sunroom. So that will never happen again. When we sold the second house that we bought when we moved out of her sunroom the first time, um,
The
we sold.
first time.
Well, so our primary home, we got it rented. We moved into her sunroom while we bought another house. While we looked for one, we bought that house. We lived there for however many 3 or 4 years. Um, and when we went to sell that one, I didn't want to be in the hey, I I can't sell my house until I found somewhere to go, or I got to put an offer on a house that's contingent on mine selling, type stuff. So we were looking, but we didn't find anything. So we just went ahead and sold our house, and we moved back into the sunroom now with two kids uh, on an air
Bless
mattress.
your mother.
Oh yeah, and this time it lasted. We were there like 3 months, and I'll never forget. One weekend we were going to go out and look at houses, and I told them, I said, listen, we are not coming home until we have a contract on a house. I cannot take this anymore. Love my, but we're in our 30s, and we're sleeping on an air mattress on the tile floor in a sunroom with no curtains, and it's just uh, but look, again, be willing to make sacrifices too. I mean, that really
Yes.
wasn't business related, but it
No,
was.
it absolutely is. I think it's important to recognize that um that there is a financial sacrifice to be made to reach your goals and get the life that you want. Do you want to sacrifice now to improve your future possibilities exponentially? Or do you want to live the good life now so that later, you're on a fixed income and you might be relying on the local church to bring you food on a weekly basis? Which life do you want?
Yeah. You know, yeah, that's fair. And I think this was before we started. We were talking. Well, I was talking about slowing down, um, and you quickly reminded me that your business is booming and not slowing down. Good for you. No, uh, but
I'm
so
exhausted.
yeah, sure, and you know, and good for you, and kudos for how well you're doing. I'm ecstatic for you. I
Thank you.
really am. Um, but like I go back to talking about when we first flipped that house, and we were, working till 10 o'clock at night every night, going home, going to work full time. And that kind of schedule honestly persisted from into 2017, beginning of 2018 until really kind of the end of last year.
Mhm.
When, everything has kind of slowed in the real estate market in the last year-ish.
Mhm.
And although, for me personally, last year's best year I ever had. And I don't say that to, I guess, brag or anything like that, but it also,
It's
you know,
okay.
we,
It's acceptable to say that you've been successful with your hard work.
yeah,
That's what we're all here for, man.
sure. I don't know. It's not my style. But we have grown and gotten busier and busier, by design. And, hey man, make hay while the sun shines, right? So
Right.
let's get it. Um, That said, you talk about sacrifices to put us in a position where now we've got multiple properties that cash flow well. Now we've got this kind of, we've got these systems in place. We've got this cycle working, and now it's kind of become like its own beast. And obviously we've got to feed it to make it grow, and still put the time in. But now that the hard part is there and the systems are in place, now it can be. Um, a lot of that hard work is done. And one of the things that I've talked to Mandy about, my wife, about a lot is, that, hey, I have been from the beginning, like I want, as this goes full time, I want it to be full time Middle Tennessee Property Group. Like I would ultimately, eventually, other than, some close friends or something helping out buying or selling a house, I really am just going to focus on just doing our stuff. Just accumulating properties for us, buying and selling, and taking care of the rentals or whatever that may be, um, and maybe slow down a little bit. Kids are getting older, obviously.
Mhm.
They've got sports and activities and all that stuff. Now my youngest one is really getting into all that. My wife travels for work a bit, and so it's one of the things with her going, uh, doing a lot more traveling here the last couple of years is kind of forced me to 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 focus and prioritize. Like sometimes I got to put the work down and take care of the family,
Mhm.
um, which is a good thing, and made me realize, look, I don't know that I want to work till 10 o'clock at night every day, uh, and miss out on some of this stuff. Some of that will be there now that the systems are kind of in place, um, and I've got good people that I don't have to sit and watch over, whether that be contractors or whatever, when a project's going
Mhm.
on. We've got these established roles and figured out where everybody fits in.
Mhm.
It makes it a lot easier to sit back and be like, all right, well, maybe we don't have to, I don't want to say work as hard, but, um, we can maybe slow down a little bit and
Mhm.
take a little more time to, go to, let's go play tennis instead, or, uh,
Well, you've
you know,
created the recipe, excuse me, and now it's repeatable. You don't have to keep creating the recipe and
right.
working yourself to death to keep creating it. You have it now. And I think yeah, I mean, I completely get that. When I started my current businesses, I had a conversation with my darling husband and said, "Look, it's going to be a couple of years of me
Yeah.
just excuse me, just full force, working 8 days a week, 12, 14 hours a day. And uh and and I'm not going to be as present as I would like to be for a little while, but I've got to get the
Right.
recipe created and repeatable, and um then hopefully it's you can not necessarily put it on cruise control, but
Right.
certainly I don't plan to work 8 days a week forever.
Well, and that's, this where I love you. You're smarter than me in that way, that at least you recognize that. I didn't. I didn't put two thoughts into what I was getting into. We just ran. We were like, all right, let's go. And with, there's no thought of when do we stop or when do we slow down. It's just, hey, busy. We got stuff to do. Let's go do it. Let's go look at this or let's go do that. And it was really nonstop.
Yeah.
And I would talk to Chris, one of the partners, and he lives in Florida. He's really just a financial partner. But he's very involved and likes to know what's going on, and he's one of my best friends. So and again, I like talking about this stuff. So it doesn't that's not a slight, but he questions me. He gives me the hard questions, and I was like, man, I'm working 70, 80 hours a week, easy. Just trying to keep up and trying to figure out what I'm doing. So but now I do think I've kind of got it figured out. And I'm slowly becoming that real estate agent that isn't answering your phone call at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
We'll deal with that in the morning.
Yeah.
With the kids, one of the things that forced me to do was make sure I get my work done between the time I drop them off to school and the time I pick them up. Because what was happening, we would run and pick them up, bring them home, get them dinner, and then I was back on the computer and not really interacting. And I just felt like that wasn't probably wasn't a good way to be, or not the way I wanted to be. I mean, again, to each their own, I guess. But so I like this newfound slowing down. I'm glad the market has slowed down. It's given me time to breathe. I've put a lot of time, I think, in the last couple of months into thinking about where do I want our growth to go or the business to go. I was talking about reworking our business plan and putting a new 5-year plan together, a 10-year plan, and mapping that out. So our goal, a challenge to myself is we want to buy at least 10 properties or 10 doors this year. This will be the third one. We're kind of off to a slow start, but I have no doubt that we'll get there. But to go from, we bought 3 or whatever, and then we sold 1 and bought 2 or 3, and then we sold 1 or 2 and bought 3 or 4. And, the idea that we could add 10 at once, what really 5 years later, 6 years later is pretty cool to me. So, and realistically, we could probably do a lot more than that if we wanted to. And I moved a little quicker, but now I'm okay with things taking time and it just, and it being that way. And if I can get to focusing, again, strictly on our stuff, that becomes a little easier. That's kind of another risk. It's hard to turn down that, hey, you help me sell my house, or hey, I'd like to buy a house. You can help me look, and then you're back to running around nights and weekends, and putting some other things on the back burner. And those clients' interests are always going to come before my own or even the business, really. And that at times has been I work with investor clients, so at times that's come up. Well, hey, the investor likes this house. Well, we like this house. Well, you know what? I'm going to give the dibs to my investor client. There'll be another one for us. Oh, yeah, that's messed up. Yeah, maybe, but that's the way it should be. So, keep them happy. There'll always be another deal. There'll always be another house. I'm not looking for one I'm going to move into. It doesn't have to be my dream home. So if the numbers work or there's value there, then we'll go after it. And if at the end of the day, it does come back to being a numbers game. If it doesn't make sense, then we'll move on. Or if I've got a good client that I've got a good relationship with and it's something they're interested in, then we'll try and help them get it. And then, and if we can't do that or they're not willing to pay that, then maybe we'll reconsider. But anyways, that's just
well, I hope that people hear that someone who is an absolute literal professional is not afraid to pivot, is not afraid to change plans, reevaluate plans, make new plans, set new goals. Because you're right, the market is changing, the economic times are changing, and it's important to consider, okay, I've reached this point. Now how do I continue without necessarily being just stubborn about the this is what I do and this is the only way there is to do it. That there are lots of you mentioned having multiple exit strategies for every property. I think that's important for people to think about. But Luke, I know that you don't want to work 8 days a week this week. And so we better let you get to it. But in the meantime, how can we contact you?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody, I guess, has any questions or wants to chat, they can call me. My phone number is 615-477-8745. 615-477-8745. Always happy to chat about it.
Same, Andy.
Always happy to chat all things real estate and investor stuff. Particularly, that's kind of my passion. But I'm all for helping people get into it if that's something they want to pursue. Again, I think it without a doubt is an invaluable wealth generation tool for you or your family. And I would again encourage anybody to jump in. Don't be afraid. Get your feet wet and start sooner rather than later.
Yeah, but
Interest rates
jump.
may be rising, but house prices are too. They're
Mhm.
obviously everything's cyclical. Even if there's a slump and some slight decline or stagnation, in long term, it's always going to go up. They're not making any more real estate. The land will always increase in value. So if you're if you're willing to put the work in and be patient, it's there.
Thank you so much, Luke. We will talk to you again very, very soon.
Thank you, Kristen.